Another paycheck gone before you know it? Is debt keeping you up at night? Does dealing with money make you feel lost or even a little clueless? Hey, it's more common than you think, and you're definitely in the right place. TSBA is your financial starting line. No shame, no confusing jargon. Just clear direction to build confidence and take control. Let's get started together. Hey guys, welcome to our first podcast of TSBA. This is where we're going to talk about tax-free savings account, GICs, ETFs, and stuff like that from the beginning, trying to explain to you exactly what's going on and what these words mean and how they affect you and how you can use them to your advantage. I'm talking about people who are making like minimum wage and a little bit higher, who don't understand, or people who make way more than that, who don't understand what RSPs are, what GICs are, what mutual funds are. We're going to try and get through all that stuff and explain to you how you can take advantage of it. I'll give you a little bio on myself. I'm not a financial advisor, but over the years, I've learned enough that I could retire at 52. When I was 30, in my mid 30s, I was working at the Salvation Army, making minimum wage. I was $25,000 in credit card debt. We had 2 kids. My wife was a stay-at-home mom. The deal was that we were going to, raise our kids, until they started school. And then after they started school, my wife would then go to work. So that was basically the deal. And I realized one day that, yes, especially after my second kid was born, I was like, man, I've got to figure something out. I'm in my mid 30s. I think I was like 32, 33 by then. And I needed to start understanding what was going on. I had no money, I had no savings, nothing like that. And if 52-year-old me had visited 32-year-old me and told me that I was going to be retired at 52, there's no way I would have believed it. There's no way. So I guess, what I'm trying to say is that, like, I don't know where you are. I don't know how far, how long you've got before you retire and all those things, right? I'm not going to tell you that you're going to be financially independent because you listen to me. What I'm telling you is that if we work together and you educate yourself on tax-free savings accounts and GICs and ETFs and things like investing and things like that, that you can better your position and better your future, because you need to think about your future self, because one day you will be older. Like tomorrow you're going to be older, and the next day you're going to be older. And I know that finances scares a lot of people. A lot of people I deal with have, I have, one gentleman I work with. He had $8,000 in his tax-free savings account, and he was making about $1 a month in interest. Okay, and I just, over a few months of explaining to him, because I always say, don't do it because I tell you to do it. Don't do it because I think it's a good idea. You need to understand what I'm saying. And once you understand what I'm saying, then go do it if you think it's a good idea for yourself. So I was explaining to him his tax-free savings account and GICs. And I explained to him that if you go to the bank and talk to your banker and say, look, I have a tax-free savings account here. I would like to lock in $5,000 for, you can do it for 3 months, 6 months, a year. He chose to do it for a year because that's what he felt comfortable with. So, well, he went from making basically $1 a month in interest to making $100 a month in interest. So in a year, he made $1,200, just over $1,200 in interest. And he was like, holy shit, man. He goes, is that legal? I'm like, of course it is, and he said, like, well, why didn't my banker tell me about this? And I was like, well, look, they don't get commission on selling GICs. And I'm not, a good banker would have told my brother, hey, listen, bro, like, you could be making a lot more money on your money here. You're just, your money's sitting in our account doing nothing. But they don't do that. They're not going to give you advice that doesn't make them money. And the last thing they want is to give you money if you don't know it's your money to take. You know what I'm saying? So what I want to do is I want to teach you about, like, just some really simple things that you can do to help reduce your taxes, to help build a nest egg, and to also help it like a nest egg, I mean like an emergency fund too, right? So you can have your emergency fund, and then I'd like you to see you with like a future nest egg for your retirement. We want to get you debt free. We want to help you with your credit cards, your student loans, whatever it is that you have. We want to help you budget. Is this a miracle show that's going to get you out of debt just by listening to it? No, no. Guess because like everything else in the world, you got to get up and you got to get off the couch and you got to go to work and do it. And the same thing with us. Like if you want to get debt free and do all that thing, you got to work on it. You got to decide what's important to you. Okay. So this is basically just a little intro to the show for today. But one of the things I want to keep in mind is what I call what I call money or time, money, and toys, or toys, money, time. I think I always call it toys, money, time. So basically, toys, money, time to me is that there's basically three kinds of people I've noticed in the world. Okay. Whether they're rich or poor. I've noticed this. And the first type of person is toys. So I had a buddy of mine, my buddy Jeff, and this guy was on a disability pension. And he would, I mean, he always had like the first guy to have the big screen TV. He had like the big 32-inch tube TV, and he always had like the best stereo. I mean, the Rotels, the Rotel and the Harman Kardons. And if those of you who are old enough to remember old stuff, Pioneer, you're going to know what I'm talking about. But he always, the first guy to have the CD player, the DVD player. He was the VCR. He was always that guy. And the Nintendo and when he had the first Nintendo, then he had the Super Nintendo and all that other stuff that comes along with that. But that was his thing. It was toys. I have another friend of mine who has like probably like 5 or 6 cars in his yard. He's got all the tools. He's got like he loves his cars. So he just anybody who wants to throw a car in his backyard, he's like, yeah, bring it on in. You know what I mean? I have another friend of mine who's, another person I know who's, he's got the motorcycle, the jet ski, the ATV, the bicycles, the electric bikes, the big truck, the camper, and that because they're toy people. They love their toys. They love their things. They love their tools. That's one type of person. Okay. The other person is a money person. Now, I know people who love money. They just love making money and they'll never have enough. I have friends of mine who, who are worth, some a million, some 5 million, some 10 million, and some I'm sure are worth way more than 10 million. And these people will never have enough money. Now, it's not that they're all like selfish and they're all like, that's their motivator. They love having money. They love making money. They're not cheap. They spend their money. They do their thing, but they spend their money wisely, and they have tons of fun, and they work like they're like Warren Buffett, like 90 something, and he's still working, 8 hours a day. Why? Because that guy's never going to have enough money. That's just his motivator. That's okay. And you need to know what your motivator is. And then there's other people, and this is me. I'm a time person. Like I'm the kind of guy who, like if I could pay you $100 to work my shift at work, I would give you $100 and just take the day off because I love my time to myself. I love doing what I want to do when I want to do it. And so being a time person, when I worked at Costco, we could take 6 weeks leave of absence in the winter. January, February, March, we were allowed to take up to 6 weeks of unpaid. And I would always take that 6 weeks, man. If I could do more, I'd take more. But I'd always take the time off. And and I always had people like, oh my God, like how can you afford to take all that time off? I'm like, how can I not afford to take that time off? I'm still paying my bills. I'm still, like I was lucky enough working at Costco. I got a couple of bonuses, so I would take my bonuses. I would put them away in the bank, and those bonuses would be like my paychecks. They would be smaller than my paychecks, but they would still be my paychecks, and I would use that as my income when I needed it. And so for me, time, like even like I always talk about when I was a kid, like when I worked, I would work like right before the beginning of the summer, I'd kind of find some work, make a few bucks, and then at the beginning of the summer, I would quit my job and I would just spend the entire summer partying. Like that's because that's what I wanted to do. That's the way I roll. And I remember like when we had our second daughter, I was able because my wife was a stay-at-home mom and I live in Canada. I was able to take a year off of work, and the government would pay me. Now, I was working at a minimum wage job, and the government was going to pay me about 55 to 60% of my income. And I remember telling my buddy at work, I was like, hey, listen, man, I'm going to take the year off. And he's like, you're going to try and live on like 60% of minimum wage? Are you crazy? And I was like, well, you know what? Like, I'll figure it out. Like, 60% of my wage will cover my rent. And then because I live in Canada, we had child tax credit, which was about $500 at the time. So that $500 is going to pay for my electricity, pay for some food, pay for gas, and things like that. And I was like, I'll figure it out. I mean, I get to spend a year at home, not having to come to work, and I could do other things with my kids and my family and just do stuff. And I did. I found a way. Now this is back in the old days. This is like 2002 ish kind of thing. And so I used to drink back then. I don't drink anymore, but back then I drank. And they had these bubbas. They were these little kegs that you could buy, and then Don Cherry was on them. They had like Don Cherry and Blue on there, and they were really, really popular at the time. And I think at the time they were like, I'm going to say like $20 or $25 a keg, and it was just these little mini kegs. I think it was like about a 12-pack of beer. Anyhow, so I said to my wife, I said, you know what? I bet you I could sell these on eBay. So what I would do is I would buy the beer, I would take it home, I would take a picture of the Bubba, and then I would put it up on a 7-day auction. Because I figured, well, you know what? By the end of the week, that beer is going to be gone. The keg will be empty. I'll package it up and I'll ship it out. And I thought, well, even if I make $20, I mean, I'm breaking even. If I make $10, the beers, but my goal was to, pay for the beer. Anyhow, I was getting like 40, $50 for each keg I was putting up. So not only was I getting my beer for free, I was making money. So I got to drink for free, which was a bonus. And then when they stopped doing the kegs, I started doing, it was Miller Lite, I believe it was. And that was a beer that had Harley Davidson flags in it. And they had that for, I think, maybe like a month. They ran the promo. And so I would buy a case of beer. I would take the flag out. So there were Harley Davidson flags. I would take a picture of it and I would put them up on eBay. And I was getting, 20, 30, 40, $50 a flag. It was crazy. So I got my beer was paid for me. And then when that ran out and I couldn't find anything else to sell for beer, then I stopped buying beer that way. But the point is, I found a way to make ends meet on 60% of minimum wage government money. And that's how I roll. Like it's always like, it's never, I mean, of course I had to build money for my future too, right? Because I mean, like that, I had to buy my future time. So as I started thinking about my retirement, I started doing that too. I started building future money, and then we're going to go through all that stuff as we talk. But I just wanted to kind of give you an idea of who I am and that I'm a time person mostly. And most people, a lot of people, they're like, oh, I'm a time person, but they'll work and not take any time off. Well, if you're not taking any time off work and taking your vacation, you're probably not a time person. And whether it's time, money, or toys, none of these is better than the other. Like, money people are not better than time people are not better than toy people. We're just different motivators, right? And if money is your motivator, you love money, and that's really what your motivator is, then if you know that, it'll be easier for you to make more money. And you'll be able to maybe trigger a way of making more money in your own mind, because if that's really your motivator, then um, you'll be able to figure that out. And if toys is your motivator, then then you probably got all the toys and you know who you are. And then we're still going to try and help you out with saving money and stuff. Maybe we'll figure that out one step at a time. Anyhow, that's the basic intro to this podcast. So I just kind of wanted to let you guys know what you're in for. And I'm hoping that if you guys have questions on anything, like I say, leave them down below here, and I'm gonna do my best. And remember, this is a podcast for people who don't understand the tax implications, don't understand GICs, don't understand RSPs, maybe don't even understand. I had one client, for example, I'm just going to say friends because I don't charge anything. I just want to help people. Uh, one person I knew who thought that, their credit card bill, they always they had enough money to pay off their credit card at the end of the month, but they would always leave a balance on there. And I remember asking, like, why do you do that? And one of the things was they were like, well, I don't want them to cancel my card. So she thought that if she didn't leave a balance on her card, that the bank would just cancel her card, right? You can't have it at zero. So I was like, no, that's not how it works. And I'm like, and you're paying interest every month on the balance, right? And she's like, oh, no. Like, you only pay interest once on the money, and then you don't pay interest after that. You just pay for 1 month. And I'm like, no. Every month you pay interest on the entire balance. So, and again, like, you don't know until you know. So some of you are going to know a lot more than others. Some of you are going to know a lot less than others. But the point is that we can, taking it step by step, we can learn about different things. So I'm going to start the next few weeks posting podcasts, talking about different things like tax-free savings account, GICs, and things like that, budgeting. So if you have any questions, like I said, put them in the thing below here. Leave me a comment. And you know what? Be encouraging, be kind. And when you start learning things, okay, if you learn something new, and I find that most people, when they learn something new, like RSPs and credit card information or whatever it is that you're learning, don't be afraid to share it. Don't be afraid to talk to other people about it. Don't, because that's how we're going to help each other out. Not everybody's going to want to listen to a podcast. So if you're at work and you talk to other people, and by telling other people and describing it to other people, you're also reinforcing that in your memory and in your brain, and you're learning more, right? You'll be able to hold on to it about a lot longer. And that's what we want to do, because the most important thing is helping each other out. Like, because there's a lot of people are out in debt out there, and I'm here to tell you that if you take tiny steps, you can do it. And that's what it's tiny steps, big achievements, TSBA, and it's all about tiny steps. And so let's get to it. Let's work on being more financially literate. And that's about it, kids. Okay, so this is the intro. I know it's a little long, but hopefully you'll enjoy it. And next week, I'm going to put up another podcast for you. And if you want to talk about something specific before I even start, throw it down and let's get going. All right? Have yourself a good one.